So once again, the disclaimer, this call is being recorded and we place our recordings on our YouTube channel. If you don't want to be recorded, you may want to drop off now. And with that, welcome. And today our topic is about Kubernetes monitoring and different options that there are. And here is a quick agenda. Um, so we are going to be looking at different options, both open source, managed offering from Microsoft based on that open source, and our first party offering. Okay. And just keep in mind, this is not an in-depth session on Prometheus, Grafana, or Container Insight. The goal is to kind of, if you're not familiar with it, introduce you to what's out there. And if you are familiar, provide you hopefully with some updates on what's out there in regards to some of the managed offerings that are based on the open source platforms or open source tools. Okay, so with that, um, first of all, we're going to talk about um, how you can monitor AKS with Prometheus and Grafana. And by the way, some of you may already be familiar with it. Prometheus is a open source monitoring toolkit. Okay, with a time series database, it stores metrics information. Grafana is a monitoring and observability tool. And just want to spend a few minutes on monitoring and observability. When we talk about monitoring, it means we are looking at real-time statistics of some system. Let's say it's a VM, you are looking at CPU, memory utilization, things like that. Observability is to act upon. Basically, let's say you set up an alert that if the CPU goes above 80%, do something. That's observability. So it Grafana provides both observability as well as monitoring. So that's the open source offering. And let's say that you are using AKS, you can use these tools with AKS as well, just like you can use with any Kubernetes offering. AKS is nothing but a managed Kubernetes offering by Microsoft. So on this screen, I'm providing all the steps that you have to do. Very simple. Of course, you have to set up AKS with managed identity. The next thing you want to do is set up the Prometheus or Grafana using help chart, and then finally set up the port forwarding. Okay, very simple steps, and in a few kind of a minutes, you have all of these installed and start scraping that information, going into Prometheus and start looking at Grafana charts. So here is an AKS cluster that I have. And by the way, please, if you have any question, feel free to ask. Let me see if any of the gentlemen have joined today. And if you don't mind, if you see any questions in the chat window, if you can repeat it, that would be great. Thank you.
Sure. Yeah.
Okay, so let's take a look at one such cluster. Here is my, let me just go in here, pick one cluster here. This is my monitoring cluster, simple AKS cluster that I've deployed. And it has a very simple app, an Nginx app with two pods that is running on it. And um, what I have done is I have gone through all the steps, set up, through help chart, set up Prometheus and Grafana, and I have as set up port forwarding. And what I can do is now I can open a browser and type in, there we go, admin, and let me get the password. And here we go. I mean, you can see all the Grafana information. Second, and let's go into the namespace pods. And this is, as I told you, there are two pods that are running. So all of that information is there. You can set up alerts, all the neat stuff that's there. So that's when first setting up, you may already have a Grafana instance, you may already have a Prometheus instance. You can connect those with AKS and get all that information going. No issue there. Okay. So any questions? Okay. So now let's come to the second option, which is more interesting in my opinion. So instead of setting up your own Prometheus and Grafana, and you have where you have to kind of take care of their feeding and caring, you now use a, a Azure Monitor managed service for Prometheus. This is currently in public preview. Just keep in mind, and Azure managed Grafana. Okay, so you use that. Both are managed services, so they are kind of a like a PaaS platform that is provided to you, where you don't have to manage any infrastructure. They are provided as kind of a SaaS offering. Okay, um, so with that, now you don't have to do any Helm chart setup or anything. I have outlined some of the steps here, and let's go through one by one on one of our cluster and see how you can set it up. In some cases, we will not go through the entire steps because it takes time and we only have like kind of a 22 minutes remaining. So what we will take a look and see what is there are to take care of when we are setting this thing up. So let's go back to our um, let's go back to our um, uh, cluster here. So this is another cluster that I have for this demo. And as you can see here, this cluster, very similar, nothing special about it. The only thing is it has managed identity setup, it has a single node, and it has the same app running on it. So once you have the cluster, and by the way, if you don't have managed identity set up for the cluster, you can do it later on, and the steps are there in the resources. So you can click on one of those and it will show you how you can do it for a cluster that doesn't have managed identity, so you can set that up. So once that is there, your cluster is ready for manage Prometheus and manage Prometheus. So okay, how you set up a managed Prometheus instance? So first, what you have to do is you have to set up um, the monitor workspace. Okay. And this is not log analytics workspace. This is called Azure Monitor workspace. So once you go in there, basically what you're going to do is you're going to create a workspace. And that's where you can define what is the name of the workspace. Very simple. In what region. And one thing to keep in mind, certain, there is guidance available where you have to create that workspace. So uh, for example, if I pick up this monitoring, it will ask me, okay, NZ1, it will ask me what region. So you will have to pick a region which is the same as your AKS cluster. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And since it's a demo, it's taking a long time, but we already have a workspace, so let's take a look at that. Okay, so once you have that workspace, what you need to do is you need to pick up a monitored cluster. So it's going to show you. Okay, normally that comes up very quickly. So let's refresh it. So I will talk over it. Normally, it should show up two clusters here, and and basically uh, both the clusters that we have here, AKS cluster, will show up. And I am not sure why this thing is uh, not working. It was working before. Okay, let's go back here. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to close it. I'm going to open a new instance. Let me just go in here. Maybe there is some application issue. Duplicate list. In the meantime, any questions, folks?
I've noticed you had to log out of the browser session and log back in.
Yeah, that I am trying to avoid if I can. Yeah, let's see. Oh man.
Do you have to select a subscription?
No, I don't think so. I mean, the thing is, you have to select a subscription in the case you have um you have multiple subscription and you have multiple um clusters in those subscriptions. Okay, so I only have one subscription and clusters there, so that should not be an issue. But I think I may have to bite the bullet. And okay, so let me just select this URL, and I'm going to um, close the browser. Yes, leave it, leave. And give me 1 second, guys. So, okay, so let me. Yeah, I think there is something not right with that system, and that kind of throws us off a little bit. Okay, let's try a different browser. Maybe that will help us. Okay. Give me 1 second. Oh, voila. So this for a browser works. So it may be some issue with Chrome. So sorry, guys. It's a demo issue. I was working fine yesterday. Anyways, so as you can see, I already have a pre-baked cake. You have a cluster that is configured, but there is one cluster that is not configured. So what here's what it is doing. You create an Azure Monitor workspace, which is basically a placeholder for Azure Managed Prometheus. Okay, and the way you configure it, you can say, I want this cluster to get that information, and then it will ask you what Grafana instance, Azure Managed Grafana instance you want to use. And by the way, um, I will show you how to create an Azure Managed Grafana. It's very simple. But in any case, you can pick your Grafana instance from here. For some reason, you cannot create a new Grafana instance directly from here. To me, this is kind of weird, but that it is what it is. Or you can leave that configuration alone. Let's say you want to use your own Grafana instance, which is an open source setup that you have somewhere. You can do that. But that's how that's how easy the setup is. Once you do that, the setup is there, everything is good to go, and you should be able to monitor that particular. Um, uh, you should be able to start getting that information. It's going to start scraping that information from that cluster and start moving that information into the managed Grafana instance, managed Prometheus instance. And let me show you how you can do the Grafana instance. So let's say Grafana, and I already have one, but if you want to create one, this is how you can do it. Very simple boilerplate information. What is the sub zone redundancies there? You want to use the enterprise. The user enterprise is in preview. This is basically API key and service account, outbound IP. This is kind of that, you know, if since it's a demo environment, I'm not using any IP, things like that, how you want to set the permissions, managed identity, all that. So all of that things are um, are you can set up for your managed Grafana instance. I already have one, so let me show you what I have in that instance. As you can see, I have set up managed identity. It has a role assignment. In regards to the enterprise, I'm not using enterprise. And let me increase the font size a little bit so hopefully everybody can see it better. 10 is fine. So that's that. Okay. So let me go back to the slide deck for a second. You have to have a Grafana instance set up. You have to have a Prometheus. You have enabled Prometheus metric collection. And then finally, um, you have linked the Grafana workspace. Remember the drop down that we saw in the Azure Monitor workspace? That's the, that's what we are talking about. So with that, let's go back in here and um, let me just go in here and let me show you the Azure Monitor workspace one more time. So this is the Azure Monitor workspace. You have the cluster that is monitored, and it has that's the workspace that it is using. In terms of the rule groups, we will talk about these rule groups and talk about it in a second. But that's all there is to the setup. And after that, let's go in here and go to the Grafana. So just like we use the Grafana open source, you can use this instance as well. Once we go in here, very similar, but it says Azure Manage Grafana. Okay. And let's see the dashboard. You have the Azure Monitor dashboard, and this is the Manage Prometheus information. And if you are wondering where this information is coming from, look at the data sources. You have Azure Monitor data source. You have the Manage Prometheus data source here. URL, everything set up. So basically, we are not doing anything special. The only thing we are doing is basically we are connecting these three things together. First, we are allowing the AKS information being scraped and go into the Prometheus uh, workspace that we have set up, and then we are connecting Manage Grafana to this Prometheus workspace so it can display that information. And just to prove this out, if we go in here, compute resources, namespaces, pods. Okay, here we go. So same data. I mean, since I'm running the same app, as you can see, the same data is now showing up um, in this in this dashboard. And of course, I mean, this is a very simple application, so there is not much to it. And as I said, um, any in-depth discussion on Prometheus and Grafana is not in the scope of this 30-minute session. I mean, there are excellent resources available, very detailed information about it is available in you know uh, over the internet. So please take a look at it if you want to know more about it. But my goal was to show, okay, you have open source Grafana, and then you have the managed offering based on those open source tool from Microsoft. Prometheus is currently in preview. Grafana is GA. The enterprise version is preview, but so you can take advantage of it if you are looking at using those to monitor AKS. Okay. Any questions? Okay, so let's say that you are using Azure Monitor and you are using Azure Monitor to monitor all of your different applications, and you want to use AKS as well, but you want to get the Prometheus matrix, okay? Because that's what you are using before, or that's what you are interested in. That's what, let's say that your team is being trained on, or they are familiar with. How do you do that? This is the other side of it. So now AKS has the Azure Monitor Container Insight has the capability to ingest that information. I'm providing the link in the end, in the resources, how you can do that. So it can ingest the information, the container insight information into the Azure Monitor, so you can, number one, create alerts on it. Number two, look at that information in the log analytics workspace. So you can query that data from there. Okay, so that's the third part of it. Um, so let's go back to um, to I mean, the goal is to provide full flexibility to the customer. Whatever they feel comfortable, they can, those tools and services they can take advantage of. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the log analytics workspace. This is my log analytics workspace that I'm here. And as you can see here, I am going to go into okay, logs, and I should be able to do the queries. So this is a query. Um, Look, I'm going to run this query. This is a Prometheus query. So this is basically, I have now set up where AKS is sending the Prometheus information, scraping out the Prometheus data, and Container Insight is able to take that data and provide me that information. So that's that. Okay. So first of all, open source, Prometheus and Grafana. Second, manage Prometheus, manage Grafana. And now we are seeing an other way where you are using Azure Monitor, but you are seeing Prometheus information that is there in the log analytics screen. Okay, so let me show you something else here. Sure. Um, yeah, so let's go to the AKS cluster here, and I just want to show you something. Let me duplicate the tab. So I just want to show you like how it will look like from the Kubernetes home resource group. Okay. So this is the container insight information, but as you can see there is information that is available to you here from the log analytics. This is the information that is there for from Prometheus, and data that is now showing up in log analytics workspace. Okay, so this is kind of, I just want to show it to you. Like, I mean, you still have container insights, but you have the log analytics data there available as well. And the Prometheus data available as well in the log analytics workspace. So any questions? Okay. So with that, I think if there are no other question, I will give everybody their 3 minutes back. And I hope that you find this information useful and you're able to take advantage of it. Look at it. Just keep in mind that the Prometheus stuff is still in public preview, so take a look at it, provide feedback, and I hope to see everybody next week for another session of Azure Power Lunch. Thank you. Peace.